Hello, you probably don't know who I am, but if you're watching this video, there's a good chance that you're in a bit of a bad way with gambling, as I was many, many times. My name's Phil. I am a recovering gambling addict. I gambled most of my adult life. I'm now in recovery, and now I make videos on YouTube about gambling addiction and trying to help people with their gambling addiction. Now, it might be, if you've read the title, that you've come here off the back of a bad loss, and I really appreciate you coming over. Hopefully this video will help in some way. The first thing you should know about me, apart from the fact that I'm a gambling addict, is I'm not an expert. I'm not a counsellor. I'm not a professional. If you need professional help, then I strongly recommend GamCare. I recommend Break Even to get some free counselling. If you've come here in a very bad mental state, if you are considering doing anything to yourself in terms of harming yourself, then I strongly recommend contacting the Samaritans, who are an absolutely amazing bunch of people. There is no stigma now attached to talking to people like the Samaritans. They're a great group of people. They help people like me and like yourself all the time. And yeah, make them your first port of call. By all means, watch this video at another time. But if you're feeling like that, if you're feeling like, you know, you've got nowhere else to go and you're feeling helpless, then let them be your first port of call, because they will be far more help than I can be. But what I do want you to know is that you're not alone. I make videos, like I say, on YouTube about my gambling addiction, about gambling addiction in general, and about gambling recovery. A lot of people come to my videos off the back of a bad loss, off the back of a bad beat, and when they're feeling particularly low, maybe particularly helpless, as we've all felt at times. What you need to know is that you're not alone. I'm not going to be patronising. I'm not going to, waffle on in a technical manner or whatever. I'm just going to tell you about me and tell you how I was when I was where you probably are now. I would be playing online casinos late into the night. I would find myself on YouTube and on Google at some ridiculous hour in the morning, and my Google and YouTube analytics for this channel will tell me a very similar story, and that is a very, very common time for people to be searching about gambling addiction. And I'll come online and I wouldn't know what to do. My first instinct as a gambler was always to try and repair the damage I'd done. And I wrongly, for years and years, associated that damage with the money that I'd lost. I thought that if I'd gone online and I'd lost a load of money, that the damage I'd done, the problem I'd caused, was a purely financial one. So what would I do? Well, I'd go, as you might be contemplating now, I would go and I would try and get that money back. Now, sometimes I would do that through the gambler's mentality way, which was to go and try and win it back. Get a bit more funds, get a few more quid, get a reload, and try and win the money you'd lost back. Other times, what I'd do, because I didn't want to leave a hole in my finances, even if the money I'd lost I could have afforded to lose or I didn't need for anything specific, psychologically I'd want to replace that money, so I would go and I would try and borrow that money from some dodgy payday loan company, or I'd try and get a credit card or something, just so I had that money back in my pocket where it should have been in the first place. But I was wrongly attributing the problem I had to money, and whilst gambling will cause you a financial problem, and you may have just put yourself in a bit of a financial sticky situation, it's not inherently a financial problem. Money comes and goes, and this is one thing I've learned after being in recovery. Money will come and go anyway, and to attribute the problem as a financial one is to ignore the root cause, and the root cause is the fact that you can't stop gambling. There is an old saying, and I hate speaking in cliches, but they do say that you can't win because you can't stop, and that's absolutely true. You can never win at gambling. You can never financially win at gambling, because if you do get a win, it's only a loan. It's only a loan from the casino. It's only a loan from the bookies, because ultimately you're going to go back there and you're going to play, and because the odds are always stacked against you, you will eventually lose. But it's not a case of necessarily just winning money, is it? It's a case of winning your life back and winning that time back. And you might be watching this, as I would have been, at 3-4 o'clock in the morning after a heavy session at the online casinos. Maybe you feel like you should have been in bed with 4 hours for like the last 4 or 5 hours. I remember telling my wife that I'll be coming to bed soon many, many times, and I never materialised, and I woke myself up on the sofa at 6 o'clock in the morning, full of self-loathing, self-hatred, half-empty bottle of vodka or whatever, because I drunk myself to sleep because I didn't know how else to cope. And You know, that feeling where you just don't know what to do with yourself, and that feeling of uselessness and helplessness and self-loathing is what prompted me to make this video, because you're better than that. I guarantee you're better than that. I told myself that I was worthless so many times. I told myself that I was a flawed individual, that I didn't deserve a good life because of this addiction, because I was doing something stupid. I told myself how stupid I was time and time again. And yes, of course, what I was doing was inherently foolish. It was destructive. It was harmful. And the common sense part of my brain told me it was harmful. I knew it was harmful, but yet I still did it. And the reason I did it is because I was addicted. It wasn't because I was stupid or unintelligent or because I wasn't worth it. It's because I was addicted. Now, one thing I'll say at this point is, just because you're addicted, that doesn't give you an excuse to gamble. Having an addiction, of course, is what drives you to gamble, in the same way that being an alcoholic is what drives you to drink. But it is our responsibility, and our responsibility alone, to do something about this. And if you've just had a heavy loss, if you've just had a very heavy defeat, if you're feeling very, very low, then at least you're feeling something. Harness whatever you're feeling now. Harness whatever hatred you have for yourself. Harness whatever disgust you have, any negative feelings. Harness them and use that power of thought to do something positive. Don't go to sleep tonight. Don't drink yourself into oblivion and just tell yourself, I'm never going to do this again. Because if I had £1 for every time I told myself I was never going to do this again, I wouldn't have the gambling debts I have. Instead, channel this energy you've got, channel this feeling you have, channel whatever drove you to find this video into doing something now. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It doesn't matter what day it is. It doesn't matter where you are. If you're able to watch a YouTube video, then you're able to take active steps now to actually doing something about your gambling. And the important thing is to do something. Telling yourself that you won't do it again is pointless. Genuinely pointless. I don't know anyone, I'm not saying there hasn't been anyone, but I don't know anyone who's quit anything addictive through willpower alone. So give yourself the best chance. Use this as a kicking off point. People often swear they're going to stop gambling because they've just had a big loss, in the same way that a lot of people say they're going to stop drinking because they've got a hangover. If you want to stop losing rather than stop gambling, then you won't succeed. You have to want to stop gambling. Needing to stop gambling is not enough. You need to want to stop. And if you want to stop, now is the time to do it. The best time, they always say, to stop gambling was the very first time you gambled. The second best time to stop gambling is right this minute. And like I say, if you're online, if you're watching me now, there is links down in the description to people who can genuinely help. There are systems in place, GamStop, the nationwide self-exclusion scheme for bookmakers, that you can do right now, you can sign up to right now in minutes, which will instantly help. And trust me, you'll get more satisfaction, you'll get more benefit from doing that than you will be from what I used to do, which was go and try and find some dodgy payday lender who'd sub me the money that I just lost, in order just to fill that hole, just to make myself feel a little bit better and like, I hadn't actually done the damage that I'd done. Remember, the damage you've done is not financial. The finances are a symptom, but the damage you've just done is a psychological one. It's a damage to yourself, it's a damage to those around you. And you owe it to yourself to be better, and you owe it to those around you to actually put something in place, to actually take active steps to fix yourself. And I'm not talking about any of this from the position of a high horse. I'm not talking down, I'm not trying to patronise anyone. I'm telling you where I was. I was there at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, trawling Google, but I wasn't trawling for actual help. I didn't want actual help. I wanted people to tell me that I wasn't alone. I wanted people to tell me that the casinos and stuff were rigged. I wanted people to tell me that I'd been cheated, that I was the victim. That's the worst thing you can do, is look for someone else to blame. Whether that be the online casino, the games were cheating me, it was really unlucky, I got a really bad run of luck, they must be rigged. Whether you're blaming the gambling casino stream or affiliate, whatever, that drove you in the direction of a particular casino. If you're blaming the casino for giving you some sort of bonus which led you to want to gamble, Yes, we have issues with these things. Yes, we talk regularly on this channel about regulation of these things. But ultimately, you have to know that the buck stops with you. And it was only when I realised that the buck stopped with me, and I couldn't blame those around me for what I did, that I started actually doing something productive and actually started my recovery for real. I gave up, don't get me wrong, I gave up for days, I gave up for weeks, I gave up for months on occasion, and successfully went sort of weeks or months without gambling. But I wasn't really, I never thought this is it. I never thought I was in recovery. I was just basically battling from day to day not to gamble. You need to, if you're at the lowest you've been, if you feel like you're at rock bottom, you need to know two things. Firstly, rock bottom has a basement. Trust me, if you're low now, it could be worse. If you're not calling that number next to the word Samaritans underneath this video in the description, then you're not as low as you can be. Gambling suicide is a depressingly increasing, problem in this country and across the world now. You only need to Google it and find out how many poor souls have taken their own lives because they don't think there's a way out. Let me be an example that there is a way out. If this overweight, balding Essex guy who spent pretty much most of his teenage years and the vast majority of his adult life trying subconsciously his best to ruin his life through gambling, if I can get off that train and I can start a recovery and be in a better place where I'm now here with my lovely wife and a good job and a business and a YouTube channel where I can sit and chat to you guys about everything that's on my mind. I've done these things despite my past. Your past doesn't have to define you. I let it define me. I let being that degenerate gambler, I almost wore it as a badge of honour. This was me. This was who I was. I was that degenerate gambler. I was the guy who was always playing the fruit machine in the pub. Every group of mates has got one. I was, the guy who was talking about his bets or talking about his latest loss. I spoke about my losses more than my wins. Somehow I wore this degeneracy as a sort of a badge, like I say, of honour. And I was that for so many years. If I can do that and drag myself out and become, I wouldn't say a better person, but internally a better version of myself, and I can actually learn to enjoy other things in life, rather than just constantly craving that buzz. And it is a buzz, And the reason we gamble is because it's a buzz. It's a very quick fix for boredom. And as gamblers, we generally have not a lot else in our lives because we've committed so much of our time and certainly all of our money into this destructive pastime. We don't have a lot else, so we have to fill our time with gambling in order to get any kind of emotional highs and lows. But I've got out of that, and like I say, it's cliche, but if I can, you do too. And if you're here because you've just had a particularly bad beat, ask yourself the question: do you want to stop gambling or do you want to stop losing? If you want to stop losing, I can't help you because there is only one way to stop losing, and that's to stop gambling. Picturing a life ahead of you without gambling in any form can be really hard, and which is where another one of the classic cliches, one day at a time, comes in. And again, I don't subscribe necessarily to counting days and all that sort of thing, but it is true. Just take a day at a time. If you don't gamble tomorrow, then that's a step towards recovery. You won't wake up tomorrow. I know I'm assuming when people are watching this, but if you wake up tomorrow, you're not going to suddenly be fixed. You're not going to have undone all the damage you've done. If you've been borrowing and borrowing and borrowing like I was to gamble, you're not going to wake up tomorrow with that problem gone. But if you don't do anything, if you don't harness this feeling you've got now and do something positive, then it's only going to get worse and worse and worse until you need to call that number below this video, or before something even worse than that happens. And it genuinely breaks my heart when I read about people who think there isn't a way out, because there is. Whatever situation you're in, there is a way out. It takes time, it takes work, You can't just sort of like go a day without gambling and suddenly everything's better. It's like eating pies and kebabs all your life and going to the gym one day and wondering why you're not thin. But if you cut out the kebabs, you cut out the pies, and you go to the gym, you will get thin. Terrible analogy, sorry, but and I know I'm rambling because I'm getting emotional. But yeah, I'm really glad you found this video. So whatever you're doing, don't, and obviously if you need, some financial support, then maybe reach out to those closest to you rather than go to some dodgy lender. But talk, for God's sake, start talking to people. Do something now that's going to benefit your future. Like I say, GamStop, self-exclusion. Cancel your bank card that you're using to gamble. Order another one. Because if you ain't got the 3-digit number on the back, you ain't going to be able to deposit online. Do things. There's loads of advice on what you can do to quit gambling, so I'm not going to repeat it all here. All right? But if you're here and if you're struggling and you don't know where to turn, just know this. There are thousands of others like you, and I was one of them. And it gets better. It can only get better, but you need to help yourself. You need to take responsibility, and you need to understand that this is your problem to fix. But most importantly, you can fix it. And things get better. And some things get better really quickly. Some things take a while to heal. But if you start now, the only way is up. To misquote Yaz. Sorry about that. So take it easy. Spend a bit of time watching my videos. There's some advice in there which hopefully helps. But like I say, I'm not an expert, so chat to the experts down below. Take it easy, yeah? Do something positive now and then get some sleep. And then make tomorrow your first day gamble free. Your first proper day gamble free. And again, for one final cliche of this video, the first day of the rest of your lives, because there is a better life here. And if you feel worthless and crappy now, trust me, you are it's worth it. It's worth doing. You're not worthless. You're not crappy. You're just an addict like me. Take it easy. All the best.